This morning, Donald Trump announced that he would be making very soon a final determination, in his words, on peace negotiations with Iran, which means we've reached my favorite part of every Friday. We either have a deal or we're gonna kill a bunch of people in Iran. I can't wait to find out. I hope you've got your bets on Kalshi in and your investments into oil futures. So maybe we'll have peace or maybe we'll have war. I don't know. It feels like an opportunity to manipulate the market in a variety of different ways. What's your prediction? Is this finally the time?
No way I'm making a prediction on this. This is the most unpredictable thing of my lifetime. So as we're gonna show you here, there is evidence that a deal is already in place, just needs Trump's sign off. Is that true? We're all gonna find out together. And then we're also gonna tell you how Israel's working overtime to destroy this deal. They hate it. So who's in charge of the country? Again, we're all gonna find out together.
Yeah.
So John, tell us what's happening.
Yeah, and let's also please bear in mind that they could stop the deal from being signed. They can also do all sorts of things after the deal is signed to start a new war. Remember, this is the second Iran war. We could go for 3. Anyway, here is what Trump says the agreement, the rough outlines of the agreement are. And Trump is saying it, so obviously you can take it to the bank. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Iran must end the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran cannot implement a toll system in the Strait. They will remove the underwater mines in the Strait, and they will collaborate with the US to remove any nuclear dust, his favorite phrase, from inside Iran. And if that's the entirety of the deal, then that sounds pretty good, right? That's pretty favorable from our point of view. I mean, basically all of that is what we had before the war for the most part, but at least we've gotten back to it, and it only took a few months and $50 to $100 billion in some American lives and a bunch of Iranian schoolgirls. So that's all good. But in return, what would Iran get? Well, what we're hearing, according to the New York Times, this was notably not in Donald Trump's Truth Social post, is there will be a $300 billion investment fund set up for Iran. So that's sort of, I guess, compensation, some might say reparations for this. 2 diplomats briefed on the latest draft called it an international investment fund, which the US would help facilitate in the event of a final deal. Plans for such a fund would be further discussed during the negotiations period. I really want to stress that in his Truth Social post, he said no money will be exchanged until further notice, which seems to imply that money will be exchanged. And maybe from the point of view of Iran, this makes things okay, and it's good compensation for not having a nuke. And I buy that we might do this. When it comes to foreign countries, the US is happy to set up massive investment funds. It's only for domestic concerns that they have no interest in actually investing here. But anyway, this seems to be an iteration, a development of an earlier idea that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner had apparently been working on. Both are real estate investors, and some mediators said they had suggested promoting real estate projects in Tehran and an investment fund in the event a deal was reached. And I have no doubt that if this happens, Trump's family will make tons of money off of it. That has to be a part of any news development. Now, Iranian officials say that they had proposed to American negotiators that US companies, including major oil and energy corporations, could enter Iran for investments and joint venture deals. So that's what we're hearing either from Trump directly or from diplomats talking with the American media. But what's the message coming out of Iran? Well, we've got that from a couple different sources. The first being Jeremy Scahill of Dropsite News. He says that an Iranian official said that from their perspective, there's a final draft of a memorandum of understanding with the US. But Iran at present has zero trust in Trump or the US and can't rule out a chance for more US-Israeli strikes. They say some voices on the Iranian side are concerned that President Trump may reconsider his position at the last minute. Trump needs to cultivate the image of a victor in the war. We cannot regard President Trump's decision as definitively finalized until the financial markets close at the end of the week. I don't know why exactly they would consider it finalized at that point, but I get their concern, Cenk. Very often when Trump says we're this close to a deal, they are gassing up the jets to start bombing once again. Maybe that's not what will happen in this particular time. But this isn't the only source of disagreement. The Fars news agency responded to some of the points in Trump's post and said, Trump claimed Iran must open the strait with no tolls. The sources say no such clause exists in the memorandum of understanding text. Iran has said it will open the strait after the blockade is lifted on its own predetermined terms, which may include vessel monitoring, inspection, and security services, meaning tolls. And Trump claimed Iran will dismantle or destroy its nuclear material. They say that that has no basis whatsoever and does not appear in the memorandum of understanding. And so if you take the deal as Trump says it, Cenk, and then you compare it to that deal, but we don't get the nuclear material and they do set up tolls in perpetuity, that's not as good of a deal.
Yeah, so okay, let's break it down one by one. So the essence of the first stage of the deal is they open up the Strait of Hormuz, we slowly lift the blockade that we have, but that's after, as we verify that they've taken out the landmines and ships can come through. So far that makes perfect sense. We get what we want, they get what they want in terms of the blockade in the strait. Secondly, when it comes to the enriched uranium and the nuclear program altogether, what Iran is saying is in the first stage, they're basically making a promise that we will not have a nuclear weapons program. Good news, they've made that promise like 8 times and have kept to it. They never violated it. They never had a nuclear weapons program. They never had a nuclear weapon. They never had a missile to deliver that weapon, okay? So, but good, I'm happy to have yet another announcement that they are not going to make a nuclear bomb and verification that goes along with it, okay? Which we had under the Obama deal, but great, no problem, right? Be thrilled to go back into the Obama deal, and I think the whole country should be. Let me tell you about someone we hired recently. Great on paper, sure, but what really sold me? They were genuinely interested in the role, asked smart questions. You could tell they actually wanted to work here. Their excitement made their resume stand out from all the others. If you're hiring, you want a candidate who's passionate about your role. But you can't get that insight from just a resume, unless you post your job on ZipRecruiter. Now you can try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/TYT. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology finds qualified candidates quickly, and ZipRecruiter has a new feature that shows you the most interested, qualified candidates first, so you meet the right people faster. Candidates can tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job. No wonder ZipRecruiter's the #1 rated hiring site. Find candidates who really want your job on ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/TYT. That's ziprecruiter.com/TYT. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Okay, so now then we have to give them some sort of financial compensation. Now, if you say, why do we have to do that? We get to kill anyone we like and bomb any country and invade them for no reason. Yeah, okay, well, you can claim that and you might even believe it, but it doesn't really matter what you believe. It matters what the outcome was. And the outcome was we could not open up the Strait of Hormuz. If we can't open up the Strait of Hormuz, gas is gonna go higher, and that's gonna affect inflation, and it's gonna crash the economy. And almost every economist in the world agrees. So we don't have a choice. I think we're getting off easy, honestly. So then the question becomes, what kind of financial remuneration is Iran going to get? And what does it mean to end their nuclear enrichment program? So that kind of gets us into stage 2, where Iran says, okay, we're going to give you assurances and the actual materials, enriched uranium itself, in the second stage. And as we do that, you're going to lift all your sanctions, which is one form of getting their money back. But remember, and Trump keeps saying in all his announcements, there'll be no cash. Okay, it doesn't have to be cash. No one cares that it's cash, right? So that's kind of like a loophole. And there's another loophole in the Strait of Hormuz conversation. That is, Trump says there'll be no toll. Well, it depends on what you call a toll, right? So if they say, I am charging a toll, $2 million per ship, okay, that probably is not gonna fly because it's too embarrassing. But if they say we're doing a maintenance fee, us and Oman for the Gulf, and we're working in coordination with the rest of the world on that maintenance fee, that maybe that could fly, right? But there's a lot of different ways to do this. The $300 billion, what is that? Are we giving them $300 billion? No, domestic audience would not stand for that, and it would be way too embarrassing for Donald Trump. So we've gotten the suckers at the table, the Gulf countries, to largely say that they will put in the money. Why? They were the ones who got attacked for no reason because of their, well, to be fair, they made a really stupid alliance with Israel, right? United Arab Emirates. Like Qatar and the others didn't necessarily, the Saudis and UAE, you wanted to be friends and allies with Israel, they always make you pay for it, right? So, okay, and I don't have a lot of sympathy for UAE in particular. So whatever they pay is their business, not my business. But could others chip in some different ways and call it redevelopment and an investment? Sure. But look, guys, the essence of the deal is pretty easy and not bad, which is Iran gets its sanctions lifted, gets some of its money back, some of the money back for all the things we destroyed in Iran, right? And we get the nuclear enrichment material back, and they have no nuclear weapons program. The Strait is open, the blockade's over. That's a gorgeous deal. That's the deal we want. That's the deal the Iranians want. That's the deal that the entire planet wants. The only people who don't want that deal are the Israelis. I've got more on that in a second. But John, you see how, like, I don't see the downside of this deal at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, zooming out, the downside would be the stupid, pointless war that gets us back to largely the status quo we had before it. Or if you go back a little bit further to the JCPOA.
Of course. And so that's why we hated the idea of this war. We hated the idea of getting out of the JCPOA. And we were against it all along. But we are where we are today.
Sure.
And in order to get out of this mess, what I'm trying to impress upon you guys is that the deal's actually relatively simple because Iran never had a nuclear weapons program. And then they enriched the uranium just to have leverage because the Israelis were like, we're gonna kill you. We're gonna demolish your regime and kill everyone in your government. They're like, I don't know, maybe we should enrich uranium to have some leverage. But they had a fatwa against a nuclear weapons program. So they don't really miss anything by giving that away and opening up the Strait of Hormuz because it used to be open, right? And we don't lose anything because we never had any interest in Iran in the first place.
Yeah, the Iranians had this insane belief that at some point the US and Israel would attack them, and they thought they needed a deterrent. I don't know why they thought that. That would never ever happen twice in a 1 year span. Yeah, now let's bear in mind that coming out of it, there are a few other elements. So first of all, the FARS agency also adds we're gonna unfreeze $12 billion. It's literally the exact same thing that Obama did, that Donald Trump has been whining about this entire time. Let's just be clear. Go on Donald Trump's True Social post right now, and you will see memes in response to everything he puts out that he gives the Iranians missiles and Obama gave them cash. And just bear in mind, we're gonna give them cash. Let's just be clear about that.
Can I just real quick on that? Look,
it's their money.
Look. It's super dumb, but this is not the time to rub it in.
Sure.
Get him to sign the deal. And then we'll worry in years from now, oh, hey, it was the same thing as the Obama deal. I don't care, just get the peace.
I want it to be the same thing. I'm not trying to rub it in. But let's also be clear, they say, first of all, and they say until that's paid, they're not gonna proceed to any other phase, so we're gonna have to provide that. And then a full ceasefire in Lebanon. So that's a prerequisite.
Well,
and that is now where, oh, well, we don't have full control over that. And so if some other party wanted to torpedo this thing, they can always start raining hell on Lebanon in theory.
And of course, they hit Lebanon 75 times yesterday.
Yeah.
So now let's break that down because it's the most important part of this entire equation. Because if Israel wasn't in the equation, we never would have gone to war in the first place. We never would have gotten out of the Obama deal in the first place. The only reason that they wanted to get out of the Obama deal was because to have an excuse to attack Iran and to do regime change. Guys, I don't know if you know this. The New York Times reported this last week. This is amazing. It turns out Ahmadinejad, the crazy Iranian leader from 2005 to 2013, was an Israeli agent. Oh my God, okay? So I have never been more stunned by that. And God, the Israelis are amazing. So we don't know how long he's been an Israeli agent, but he was under house arrest before the war began. His chief of staff had been arrested for being an Israeli agent back in 2018. And so Israel did a bombing of the people that were guarding him right in the beginning of the war. They kill the Ayatollah. They killed the guards of Ahmadinejad, who were not his guards, but the guards that were basically imprisoning him in his own house. But the idiots accidentally hit Ahmadinejad. Because why did they not want to hit Ahmadinejad? Why did they want to free him? They were going to put him in charge of the country. So that means 100% Israeli agent. Now look back at what he did when he was in charge. Oh, the Israel shouldn't exist. The Zionism should end. The Holocaust wasn't real. We're gonna build nukes. Oh, all of those were excuses for Israel to attack Iran. God, they're brilliant. Okay, so we wouldn't have had any of these issues if Israel wasn't in the equation to begin with. They've been agitating for this war, as you all know. Now you've seen Netanyahu 30 years on tape. Iran's 2 weeks away from a nuke. Oh, they're gonna kill your grandmother. It's a ticking time bomb. Literally 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, etc. So this guy's one of the biggest liars in human history. And he's been lying about how dangerous Iran is the entire time. And they've had a million assets inside Iran, as they do here. So now rubber meets the road right now, right here on this issue. You've got all that history and context. Now, the most important thing is what's going to happen. Because the pivotal part of this entire agreement isn't the nuclear dust, the enriched uranium, the sanctions, even the Strait of Hormuz. No, the critical part is Iran says, no, the whole war has to stop. The entire Middle Eastern war has to stop. Israel cannot keep attacking us. They cannot keep attacking our allies, including Lebanon. They cannot take southern Lebanon. And Israel says, oh, hell no, we're never gonna stop. We're always gonna be at war. We're always gonna come to take your land. We're not gonna stop for 1 second in Lebanon. In fact, Netanyahu put out a video after the first announcement of peace any second now earlier in the week. And he said, we're gonna put the pedal to the metal and we're gonna go even deeper into Lebanon and our war is not over, right? Because he's a disgusting warmonger and one of the most evil people on the planet. So he has signaled in 1,000 ways, including all of their assets here, like Mark Levin and others going, no, war. Okay, so all those have been triggered. They're all trying to destroy this peace deal before it's signed. God knows what other threats they have. So then the question is, are we going to listen to them or not? The whole country agrees we should end this war. The whole world agrees we should end this war. The markets agree. Everyone. By the way, other rich people, almost all the other rich people agree. End the war. Are you crazy? The markets are about 50,000, as Pam Bondi would say. And AI is killing it. And the last thing we want is this ridiculous curveball where you do an RPG through an entire global economy with inflation that's totally out of control because of gas prices. Okay, so. Israel's power versus the rest of the world, I've got it at 50-50. And by the way, historically, up until this moment, it has not been 50-50. Israel has gotten its way every single time. Israel got its way when we first attacked Iran, the second time we attacked Iran, anytime we tried to stop attacking Iran, Israel's assets, oh no, war, we're not done yet, we need more blood, right? And everyone's like, okay, sorry, we didn't mean to be anti-Semitic, we'll kill more Muslims, okay, and Christians. Okay, so that's literally how it's played out. You've all seen it with your own eyes, right? So now the question is, now that it appears that we're at the last stage of this, does Israel control us 100%? That's the question. It's not whether they have influence. They have massive influence, otherwise we wouldn't have gotten the war in the first place. It's not whether they control us, and can I use the word control? Of course, when you drive us into a war and keep us in that war for all this time, when we have no interest in it, of course you control us. Now the question isn't that. The question is the control 100%? Because going further, when the entire planet says no, would mean that's it. No, they literally stronger than the rest of the world combined, rest of humanity combined, rest of America combined. They completely have the American government and, by the way, American media under their control. Now, by the way, if we don't and Trump signs a peace deal, that means they don't have 100% control. You have to be honest in both directions. It doesn't mean that they don't have massive influence and that their control might not be 80% or whatever the number you want to put on it, but it certainly wouldn't be 100% if we defy them and do this peace deal, because they definitely do not want this peace deal.
Yeah.
So our job is to report the news, and whenever we have an answer on this, we'll tell you, was it 100% or wasn't it? Now, of course, we'll concede that it wasn't 100% if we defy them here. The other side will never concede that it's even 1%.
Yeah.
And by the other side, I don't mean Levin and the assets. I mean all of mainstream media. They're like, no, Israel has no influence. I mean, maybe a tiny amount. But if you say anything more than a tiny amount, you're a vicious anti-Semite. And the real problem isn't the wars and the genocide. It's you for not liking wars and genocide. You dirty, dirty bigot. Kill more Muslims, says Jake Tapper and every cable news anchor. Anyway, yes.
I think I'd like to offer you the opportunity to apologize for implying it's even 1%. Apologize right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't get to go through the timeline. That was gonna be fun. Unfortunately, we probably don't have time. So we'll have to see. You know, it's a Friday. You never know what's gonna happen before Monday's show. So stay tuned to find out as we play another round of Deal or War.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.